Good morning. Today, I'm actually going to be talking about a video I was watching from Bempanada. His latest one on regards of the concept of self-determination. Right off the bat, I would say that the point that he's making, I do agree with him. That the concept of self-determination is very, very problematic, especially considering the history of colonialism and puppet regime and all that. Like, his point on that, I totally agree with. For those who have not watched his video, he was talking about the legitimacy of Crimea being part of Russia, and the legitimacy of Taiwan being a country, or whether it is being part of China. The basic point that he's making is it is very, very difficult to define what is truly self-determination. And how can you say if a population is being truly they're able to make their own decision. I bloody love my general aphasia sometimes. For those who doesn't know, I actually have some mental disability called general aphasia, where it creates 4 big problems. 1, I know what I want to say, but my mouth refuses to say the word that I'm thinking. Even if I just say that word like 5 seconds before, as you saw, and I'm no longer able to say it. Even though it's a word I was just said. The second one is I will hear a word, but it's not going to register in my mind. And I might have to ask a person a few times before I can register it in my mind. It is nothing that I'm not trying to listen to, just literally how my brain operates. And because of that, I can completely misunderstand someone. Like, there were times where, that would be like point number 3. Like, there were times that the people will say something, it will be the complete and utterly different. Like I will understand something completely different. They might be talking about trains, and I will be like, look at what it has to do with oranges. That's just how my brain works. And the last one, well, right now it's just escaping me right now. Not important. So, going back to the point I was saying about Bempanada. You have people moving to a region and just taking over the land. And their will is literally being taking over over by to the indigenous population. So, for example, in Crimea, you had both Ukrainian and Russians moving in Crimea, and their will literally takes over the will of the Tatar. So what about the ethnic minority of the Tatar? Isn't that what is their will being suppressed and their land being stolen from them? Well, the majority are basically foreign invaders. And if you compare that to Taiwan, how basically the Chinese revolution occurred, the ruling elite basically fled to Taiwan and they installed a puppet government with the US backing, installed a dictatorship that lasted I think he said the 90s or 80s and 90s, and they literally forced their will upon the resident of that country, of that island, Taiwan. And that government was always been anti-China. They're by definition hated the Chinese revolution, the China government, and they're very, very much pro-Western. And of course, the US is using them as a way to try to create separation from China. And the status quo, there's basically the three main movement. There's the ones who wants to maintain the status quo, meaning that they want to they recognize that Taiwan is part of China, but they have their own separate system. There's the ones who wants to separate from China, which is basically the whole it comes from the whole, like, people who fled from China during the Chinese Revolution, and then there's a group who wants to unite with China. The separatists has been getting momentum in the recent years. And at this point, the majority of the Crimea and Taiwan are in a similar situation, where the will of the majority might not be what the will of the minority actually wants. Now, this does imply that those who want the status quo, and correct me if I'm wrong about Bempanada, because I will be forwarding this video to you and see what you think about it. I do like in general. I do respect Bempanada contents. They're very well researched. They're very well presented, and most of the critics that he has never truly deals with the point that he's making. So, and I do have a criticism for him, and I'll be coming out. I just wanted to finish the setup what he's talking about. He also talks about that a small little island off the coast of Argentina, where that island has been occupied by Great Britain for a couple of centuries now, and the majority of the people there want to be part of Great Britain. And of course, he talks a little bit about the whole movement in Palestine and the Zionists, and how Zionists basically colonized Palestine, and how the people who define self-determination really put an exception on what has happened beforehand. We're going to ignore it, but it's only going to happen afterwards, but it never truly reinforce it. It's only ever being used as a way to determine who is self-determined, who is not. Oh yeah, I was going to say that that Bempanada implies the status quo is what the separatists want. From my understanding of that region, the status quo and the people who wants to be separate is actually the will of the majority. Is the separatists themselves who actually are going against that group. Again, there's like three basic groups, and I don't think Bempanada has never mentioned those three different groups, which I think is an important information to present. Here's my issue. So here's my issue. One, the situation between Crimea and Taiwan is vastly different. And two, it is him basically saying the Ukrainian Nazism is just Russia propaganda. I want to point the first reason. Like, yes, the second point is kind of like mixed in with the first point, but I'm still going to say the first point. I'm going to try to separate the two. So first, the reason that is vastly different than any other form of imperialism, you have the United States of America, who's literally using Taiwan as a weapon, as a way to create a wedge pen against the communist country China. They want to turn Taiwan to a proxy war, and they have been funding non-government NGOs, and I know his video today that he published in regard to that trans girl and in her denial of U.S. NGOs on how they've been used as a government as a way to create color revolution. He understands the effects of those NGOs and how the color revolution is always a product of the U.S. imperialism. You had this NGO, this color revolution that has been in Taiwan since the Mao Revolution, and they have been working to propagandize the entire population for decades upon decades upon decades. Yes, there was a dictatorship. Yes, they crushed their oppression, the opposition group. That is true. I'm not denying that. But that propaganda machine is still going on to this day. That the U.S. spends billions of dollars to create a revolution in Taiwan, to basically send their separate nation from China. Why do they want that? Because they want to undermine China. And China, yes, they're patient, but they made it clear that because of Nancy Pelosi, that they were not going to let U.S. military physically be present in Taiwan, like basically letting Taiwan to become a proxy war, and the escalation has been rising ever since. So the entire point of this of Taiwan is vastly different compared to what is happening that small island off the coast of Argentina and Crimea. Because Crimea, yes, because of Russia colonization, I'm not going to deny this. Yes, there is the whole what's it called? The Rusa. Basically, Russia. It's basically a Russian policy in the early 1900s. Basically, they're forcing other people to becoming Russians. Like basically, they're doing like Nazi shit, basically. Like discrimination against minorities and try to force them to become Russians and all of that jazz. That was part of the Tsar Russia. I do understand that, and I'm not going to apologize for that. I am not going to say that is a good thing. It's not. What I believe is that, yes, after a certain amount of time, the people that you have to learn as a way to coexist. I'm not, like, I don't believe that, those people in, that lived there for like decades now or centuries now, yeah, they'll have to go home. I'm not going to say that because that's absolutely stupid. And what's the cut-off point? I don't know. But what I do know, we do need to live in harmony. And what is different from Crimea is the fact that that these people have not been propagandized compared to Taiwan. They're not there to they were not there basically trying to uphold some certain hegemony to create tension or anything. No, like the entire, like, in fact, one of the most cited cited essay that Ukrainians, pro-Ukrainians use is about Russian imperialism, is on Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus unity. And the entire essay demonstrates that it talks about how their culture are extremely intertwined with each other, and they're basically like brothers. And when I started delving into that history, even a pro-Ukraine separatist, Timothy Snyder, he even admits that there is a lot of connection between Ukraine and Russia. They're very intertwined people. Like even and it dates back centuries on how united these people are. Look at how culturally intertwined. You don't have that in Taiwan. It was literally a group of people who didn't like China, the Chinese government, fled to Taiwan, and then they tried to assert their will over Taiwan. Like it's like to me it's compared apples with oranges. Now, to my second point about the Russia propaganda regarding Nazism. I know that you recognize that Bempanada recognized the color revolution that took place in 2014. And this, but for whatever reason, which he never explains, and I've listened to multiple of his videos, why he thinks the Ukraine Nazi problem is just Russia propaganda. Here's my question to you. When you have a video, there's actual video footage of this, of Zelensky, when he became president, going to the Donbass, talking with the Nazi regiments there, telling them, begging them to bow down, to stand down, to stop shelling Donbass. The Nazi just looked straight at his eyes and said, "Screw off, or we're going to kill you." And he's begging them. He's like, "I'm the president here. You should be listening to me." And then he ended up collaborating with them. Who's really in charge here? Zelensky or the fucking Nazis? Another video that I watched recently, I seen a few of them now where you have Ukrainians saying that we need to exterminate the ethnic Russians in the Donbass. We should slaughter every single one of them. It's like, oh, we might have to kill about 1.5 million people. I know it seems harsh, but it's necessary for Ukraine self-determination. That's literally ethnic genocide right in open talking about. That's literally what Nazism 101 is all about. Like, one of the things that I also learned, Crimea, when it became part of Russia, they literally cut off their water and electricity supply to Crimea, Ukraine. Then you have Zelensky on video making jokes how Crimeans are dying of thirst. And the audience just laugh. Another video I watched recently, it is a woman getting her head bashed against the side of the wall because she's a pro-Russia, and say to the guy that Russia is there to save us. And she basically got her head smashed against the fucking wall. And not a single person in that room went to help her. How is not a Nazi problem? I see videos of bloody children doing the Hitler salute. Not once, not twice. I think I saw it at least 3 times so far. It is always Ukraine and the US who has always said that he voted against the stop of Nazi glorification or Nazis, I want to say. Ukraine has always voted against. And the past 8 years, and just the last one, the entire collective West has all voted against it. Before that, they just abstain their vote. Then there's also the language issue, where they ban the Russian language. You also have kids' books, where they're promoting Stefan Bandera as a national hero, and how the Russians are orcs in kindergarten book libraries. That is a Nazi fucking problem. So please, can you explain to me why all of this is Russia propaganda? There's even a pro-Ukraine supporter just recently I watched. His name is Dylan. You can find his stuff on YouTube. It's like a Divin TV or something like that. I have to look it up. He literally, in one of his debates, he literally said that if Ukraine tries to go for peace, the Nazis are going to basically take him off from the president. They were never going to allow a peace deal with Russia. And this leads to my third point. Yes, generally speaking, I'm anti-war. I don't want any wars across the globe. And this is a question that we need to seriously ask. When you have fucking Nazis who's literally threatening the lives of people, should we allow them to do whatever they want? Like, should we just let Palestine being discriminated against by Israel? Or should we stop Zionism? Should we allow Nazis doing an ethnic genocide on the Russian population in Ukraine? That is a question that I think, and is someone, a nation, like for example, okay, I'm going to pick Crimea. Is Russia imperialist when it's the people of that region asking for help? Like, every time that I hear people say that Putin just stole Crimea from Ukraine, or Putin just annexed the full region in Donbass. The one thing that they never discuss with that kind of narrative is the fact that in Crimea they had their own parliament from like 1990, decades ago. I can't remember when it was established, but Crimea had their own parliament that is separate from Kiev. And that government requested help from Putin after the neo-Nazi coup, the US neo-Nazi coup in 2014. That is the reason why Russia sent their soldiers in Crimea. The referendum, it was the leaders in Donbass who actually requested the help. They requested the help and the referendum. Like, it was them who asked Putin's help. Why is that part is always omitted? Why you don't talk about it? If it's truly Putin's will, then why is it that most of the time it is other people asking and behaving those ways and just asking him for help, and he's willing to help? Like, one of the biggest thing that he has said, he wants to have friendly relation. And his issue is how the USSR fell, and how there's a bunch of acting Russians that just basically live outside of Russia, and that's one of the prime reasons that's happened in Syria, Georgia, Ukraine. There's always he looks at those regions because of the ethnic Russians in that region. And from what I've seen so far, Georgia and Ukraine, the US will use the hatred of pro-Western forces against ethnic Russians. Why is it that it is okay to discriminate against one group, but it's not okay to discriminate against another group? That's one thing that this entire narrative of, oh, that's Russia propaganda, is always comes down to. It's like, why is it that one group is okay to discriminate against and another group is not okay? Because after all, it is okay to discriminate against Slavs for a reason. Like, another thing that I actually learned about Nazism, Slavs was also one of the prime enemies of Nazi. They didn't consider them to be ethnically white enough. They are inferior to the whites. They even had this whole science to determine how white you are. Western white, you're good. If you're Slav in your blood, you're evil. It just so happened that Russia is Slavic. And also, the Ukrainian Nazis did love working with Hitler during the Second World War and hated Russia. Like, the entire Ukraine nationalism is always rooted in Nazism and their hatred towards Russia. This is my final point. Self, yes, you're absolutely correct that the concept of self-determination. Oh, I can say the word now. Great. Self-determination. You're correct. But sometimes there is the situation of far more complex. And I know that's one important that they're very complex and we don't really have. But there are times I truly feel that if an ethnic group are literally being suppressed, they're literally, and not suppressed in the sense that what is happening with the blacks in the U.S. Like they're being suppressed. Like you come on a kilometer, yeah, okay, that's bad. Not denying that's not happening. There's also the whole history of segregation was far worse than what's happening right now. But when you have people, the point is, if there's some people where their very, very lives are at stake, like their own basic survival, that level of discrimination, it redefines the concept of self-determination, because that will of the people is all about self-preservation. It's no longer self-determination, it's self-preservation. And I think the lives of people are more important than the lives of the culture of self-determination. For me, so the bottom line, I truly feel that is a better case. What is happening in the ethnic Russians, it will be that the discrimination is facing with Palestine versus Israel, and the Nazis are doing to the ethnic Russians, because their very lives depends on it. Like there's even even today, I saw a picture of you can get a certification that proves that you are a purebred Ukrainian as a badge of honor. I'm sorry, like the list of Nazi shit just keeps going and going and going and going and going. So I just don't understand why you ignore all of that Nazism. Can you please explain why you ignored it? Or at the very least, if you want to, you and I can have a conversation. Yes, I am this brand new channel. I'm a small leftist channel. But I still think it might be a good idea to have a conversation if you're willing to have one. Have a good day.